Many of you are asking the same question: what can we, the youth, really do for Imran Khan's release? I know this question burns inside you because I once stood where you stand today, confused but determined to bring change. In this video, I will show you not only why this mission matters for Pakistan's future, but also how each one of you can play a real, powerful role in shaping it. By the end, you will know the steps, the mindset, and the unity needed to turn this mission into reality. The biggest problem our nation faces right now is the absence of true leadership, and that absence is felt most deeply with Imran Khan being behind bars. His vision, his voice, and his courage have been the driving force that awakened millions of Pakistanis, especially the youth, to believe in justice, merit, and the rule of law. Without him, people feel directionless, scattered, and demoralized. This is not just about one man being imprisoned. It is about the silencing of a democratic voice, a hope that many had attached their future to. The problem is that when a leader who stands for justice is taken away, the forces of status quo and corruption gain strength, and ordinary citizens feel powerless in the face of oppression. It becomes easier for injustice to normalize, easier for corruption to root deeper into the system, and easier for the powerful elite to continue playing with the destiny of the nation. The solution lies in understanding that while one leader can ignite a movement, it is the responsibility of the people, especially the youth, to carry that flame forward when circumstances try to extinguish it. The release of Imran Khan will not come simply through hope or emotional slogans. It requires organized, peaceful, and intelligent action. The solution is for the youth to become educated about their constitutional rights, to speak with clarity and logic about why justice matters, and to mobilize in ways that cannot be silenced through community building, through digital platforms, through international awareness, and through consistent pressure on institutions that claim to represent justice. The solution also lies in not falling into the traps of anger or violence, because that only strengthens the narrative of those who wish to silence this movement. Discipline and unity become the strongest weapons when brute force is used to suppress truth. For example, look at how movements around the world have managed to achieve breakthroughs even against powerful regimes. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison, and yet the movement for equality did not die in his absence. It grew stronger because the youth and people of conscience took it upon themselves to carry forward the mission he stood for. They educated themselves, they organized in peaceful but persistent ways, and they made it impossible for the world to ignore the injustice being carried out. Similarly, in our own history, when Pakistan was struggling for independence, it was not just the speeches of leaders like Quaid-e Azam that brought freedom. It was the consistent, united action of youth and citizens who believed in the dream of a separate homeland. They faced hardships, they faced repression, but their belief in a larger cause gave them strength. In the same way, Imran Khan's release is not only about freeing one individual, it is about proving that the voice of justice cannot be locked away. The youth of Pakistan must learn from these examples and understand that their role is far greater than just expressing frustration on social media or waiting for change to happen on its own. They must transform their energy into structured effort. By joining together in student bodies, by creating awareness campaigns that highlight injustices, by reaching out to international human rights forums, and by constantly reminding the world that what is happening in Pakistan is not just a political issue, but a moral one. When youth act with wisdom, knowledge, and unity, they become unstoppable, and even the most powerful systems are forced to bend to their will. The problem we face today is that the majority of youth underestimate the power they hold in shaping the future of Pakistan. They feel their role is limited to posting online, venting frustration, or passively waiting for leaders to bring change without realizing that history has always proven youth to be the most decisive factor in movements of justice and transformation. This lack of awareness and direction makes the youth vulnerable to manipulation, distraction, and division. Many young people are caught up in entertainment, meaningless debates, or hopelessness, instead of focusing their energy on constructive action. The issue is not that the youth lack passion, because they have demonstrated time and again that they are deeply passionate about Pakistan and its future. The issue is that their passion is not always channeled into organized, strategic efforts that create real impact. This creates a vacuum, and in that vacuum, those who benefit from corruption and oppression strengthen their grip, while the majority remains powerless. The solution is to awaken the youth to their true potential and responsibility in this mission. They need to recognize that their collective energy, numbers, and creativity can do what no other force can achieve. Instead of being passive spectators, they must become active participants in building the momentum for justice and for Imran Khan's release. Youth should focus on education about civic rights, the Constitution, and the values that Khan himself has always emphasized: justice, merit, and accountability. This understanding builds confidence and eliminates confusion, because once a young person knows the principles they are fighting for, their actions become clearer and stronger. The youth must also take ownership of the narrative, speaking to families, communities, and online platforms with logic and courage, countering propaganda with truth, and ensuring that the movement is not portrayed as reckless, but as disciplined, principled, and rooted in justice. They must see themselves as the ambassadors of this mission, showing by example what responsible citizenship looks like. A practical example can be seen in how youth movements around the world have shifted the course of history. In Egypt during the Arab Spring, it was the younger generation that mobilized through technology, spreading awareness and organizing peaceful demonstrations that shook long-standing dictatorships. Closer to home, if we study the Pakistan movement, it was young students who formed the backbone of Quaid-e-Azam's rallies and campaigns, spreading the message in towns and villages and creating a network of unity that could not be broken by colonial powers. These young people were not extraordinary individuals. They were ordinary citizens who chose to dedicate themselves to an extraordinary mission. Similarly, during the lawyers' movement in Pakistan, young lawyers and students stood shoulder to shoulder, demanding the restoration of the judiciary, proving again that when youth unite behind a cause, no authority can permanently suppress their voice. In today's context, the youth must take inspiration from these examples and recognize that their role in Imran Khan's release is not optional, it is essential. They can create peaceful awareness drives in universities and colleges, use digital media not just for entertainment but for advocacy, and build local community groups that keep the mission alive in every corner of Pakistan. Every single young person has something to contribute, whether it is writing, speaking, organizing, or even simply spreading verified information that counters false narratives. The real power of youth lies in their ability to dream without fear and act with energy. And if they direct that energy collectively, it becomes a force stronger than any authority that tries to suppress justice. The problem we face is that whenever injustice happens, or when leaders like Imran Khan are silenced, most people feel that their only way of expressing frustration is through anger or violent confrontation. This reaction, though natural, often backfires and damages the very cause that people are fighting for. Violent outbursts, destructive protests, or uncontrolled emotions allow the opposition to paint the movement as chaotic, undisciplined, and dangerous, which weakens its legitimacy in the eyes of both the nation and the world. This is a trap that youth especially fall into because their emotions are raw, their passion is strong, and their patience is often limited. But this problem is not unique to Pakistan. Across the world, many youth-led movements have been weakened or crushed simply because they allowed their energy to be misdirected into actions that undermine the moral high ground. Injustice thrives when the oppressed lose their discipline because it shifts the attention away from the truth and toward the reaction. The solution is to consciously adopt peaceful, impactful, and intelligent ways to raise awareness that cannot be dismissed or discredited. Peaceful resistance has historically been the strongest tool against powerful systems because it exposes the oppressor without giving them the excuse of labeling the movement as violent. For the youth of Pakistan, this means organizing peaceful rallies, creating social awareness campaigns, documenting injustice with facts and evidence, and using modern tools like social media to tell the world what is happening in their country. The goal should not be to shout the oppressor, but to outsmart them by creating a narrative so strong and so rooted in truth that it cannot be ignored. This requires patience, strategy, and consistency. The solution also lies in building coalitions, students connecting with lawyers, activists connecting with professionals, and young people connecting with international organizations that can amplify the voice of justice by keeping the focus on truth, justice, and peaceful methods. The movement becomes impossible to delegitimize. An example can be found in the civil rights movement of the United States under Martin Luther King Jr., the youth who marched, organized, and protested faced violence, arrest, and humiliation, but they did not retaliate with violence. Instead, they used their discipline to highlight the brutality of the system they were up against. And because of that, the world rallied to their side. Another powerful example is Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent struggle for independence against British colonialism. Despite immense provocation, Gandhi and his followers maintained discipline, which eventually turned global opinion against the colonial powers and gave moral authority to their cause. Even in Pakistan's own history, during the lawyers' movement, peaceful protests and consistent non-violent pressure eventually led to the restoration of the judiciary. These examples prove that peaceful resistance does not mean weakness. It is actually the strongest form of power because it strips away the masks of injustice and shows the truth in its rawest form. For today's youth, the same principle applies to the mission of Imran Khan's release. Instead of allowing emotions to explode in unproductive ways, young people can channel their energy into strategies that bring lasting impact. For instance, university students can organize awareness seminars about constitutional rights. Digital creators can produce content that explains the importance of justice in simple and relatable terms. And community groups can peacefully march while carrying messages that cannot be twisted or misrepresented. The youth can also collaborate with human rights organizations, use global media platforms, and engage in creative but non-violent forms of protest, art, music, writing, and social campaigns that spread the truth while maintaining dignity. When these peaceful methods are multiplied by millions of young voices, they create an unstoppable force that reveals the injustice of imprisoning a leader like Imran Khan and pressures the authorities to respond. The problem we see among the youth is that while they have energy, passion, and the will to stand up for what is right, they often lack discipline, unity, and resilience. Passion alone is not enough to sustain a movement, especially one that is up against powerful and organized systems. Without discipline, enthusiasm turns into chaos. Without unity, strength turns into division. And without resilience, every setback feels like the end. This is exactly what those in power count on. They know that if the youth cannot control their emotions, remain united, and keep going despite challenges, the movement will eventually fade away. Disorganization and impatience weaken the impact of even the most genuine struggle. Many young people want quick results, but real change, especially the release of a leader like Imran Khan, requires long-term effort, persistence, and the ability to stay the course, even when things do not immediately go their way. The solution is to cultivate discipline, build unity, and strengthen resilience at every level of youth involvement. Discipline means controlling emotions, following strategy, and never letting personal impulses damage the larger cause. It means showing up on time for events, staying committed to responsibilities, and refusing to engage in activities that harm the credibility of the mission. Unity means overcoming personal differences, political divides, or regional biases, and remembering that the big goal is greater than any individual ego. When youth stand together, their numbers and collective voice create power that no authority can ignore. Resilience means preparing for challenges, setbacks, and even failures without losing hope or abandoning the mission. It means seeing every difficulty as a lesson, every loss as temporary, and every obstacle as proof of the importance of the struggle. If the youth embrace these three qualities, their passion will not burn out quickly. It will transform into a steady flame that can light the path forward. An example of this can be seen in the student-led movements during Pakistan's independence struggle. Young people then did not have access to social media or modern platforms, yet their discipline and unity made their voice strong enough to be heard across the subcontinent. They organized rallies, distributed pamphlets, and stayed consistent in their support for leaders like Quaid Azam, despite facing colonial oppression. Their resilience was tested many times, but they refused to give up, and eventually they helped achieve a dream that many thought was impossible. Another powerful example comes from South Africa's anti-apartheid movement. Students and young activists there faced arrests, torture, and censorship, but their discipline and unity made the system collapse under its own weight. They showed that resilience could outlast even the harshest oppression. More recently, during the climate change strikes led by young people, around the world, unity and discipline turned individual voices into a global wave that demanded governments pay attention. These movements prove that when youth combine their energy with discipline, unity, and resilience, they become a force of history. In today's context, the youth of Pakistan can do the same for Imran Khan's release. Instead of being distracted by differences of opinion, they can unite around the shared principle of justice and the rule of law. Instead of allowing provocations to spark chaos, they can train themselves to remain disciplined, peaceful, and strategic in their actions. Instead of losing hope when faced with setbacks, they can remind themselves that every great struggle takes time and patience. For example, young people can form organized student groups in universities that run campaigns based on education and awareness rather than slogans alone. They can create networks of volunteers who coordinate events, manage information flow, and provide structure to the movement. They can set up systems of mentorship where experienced activists guide new participants on how to handle pressure without breaking discipline. And most importantly, they can build a culture where resilience is celebrated, where every obstacle is treated as a chance to grow stronger rather than as a reason to quit. The problem many youth face in this mission is how to deal with setbacks. Whenever there is a disappointment, whether it is another court decision against Imran Khan, a crackdown on peaceful protests, or the silencing of voices on media, many young people feel disheartened and begin to lose faith. This reaction is natural, but it is also dangerous because it weakens the momentum of the movement. The truth is that every great struggle, every fight for justice, goes through phases of failure, disappointment, and even betrayal. Those who oppose justice count on the youth losing their energy after a few setbacks because they know that if young people stop pushing, the mission will collapse on its own. The problem is not that setbacks happen. They always will. The problem is that youth often interpret them as permanent defeats instead of temporary challenges. When every disappointment feels like the end, morale drops and the unity that was built begins to break apart. The solution is to change the way setbacks are understood and used. Instead of treating them as roadblocks, youth must see them as lessons, opportunities, and fuel for progress. Every setback teaches something valuable. It exposes weaknesses in strategy, reveals who can be trusted, and highlights what needs to change moving forward. If youth start viewing setbacks as feedback rather than failure, they will remain motivated even in the hardest times. This requires emotional strength and mental training, but it also requires building systems of support where young people remind each other that the journey is bigger than any single moment of disappointment. When setbacks are embraced with resilience, they can actually strengthen the movement instead of weakening it. The solution is not to deny the pain of loss, but to convert that pain into determination, to remind ourselves that justice has never been won easily, and that those who stay firm through the storms are the ones who ultimately shape history. For example, take the life of Nelson Mandela. He spent 27 years in prison, separated from his people, while many in his movement were tortured or killed. By all measures, these were immense setbacks, and yet Mandela treated them as part of the struggle, not the end of it. His resilience inspired millions, and when he finally walked free, his people were ready because they had not allowed despair to consume them. Another example comes from our own Quaidi, Azam, who faced rejection, political isolation, and health struggles, yet never treated these difficulties as final defeats. He adjusted strategy, learned from the challenges, and eventually led a nation to independence. Even in recent times, during the lawyers' movement in Pakistan, there were moments when hopes were crushed and leaders were jailed. But those who continued with determination turned those setbacks into fuel, and the judiciary was restored. These examples show that every movement faces crushing moments, but those moments can either break you or build you, depending on how they are handled. In the case of Imran Khan's release, youth must adopt the same mindset. If a protest is stopped, it should not be seen as failure, but as proof of the fear the system has of the youth's power. If media blocks the message, it should motivate young people to find new, creative platforms to spread awareness. If a legal decision goes against expectations, it should not destroy morale, but rather remind the youth that the struggle is against deeply entrenched forces and requires patience. For instance, students can create discussion circles where setbacks are openly analyzed and lessons are drawn instead of just emotions being expressed. Digital activists can turn censorship into an opportunity to build alternative channels of communication, spreading the message in ways that cannot easily be silenced. Community organizers can prepare backup plans so that whenever one effort is blocked, another begins immediately without losing momentum. In this way, every setback becomes part of the journey, making the movement stronger, wiser, and more resilient. The problem today is that many youth lack a clear roadmap for action when it comes to supporting a mission as significant as Imran Khan's release. Passion alone cannot sustain a movement unless it is guided by structure, planning, and a sense of responsibility. Without a roadmap, efforts become scattered, energy is wasted, and important opportunities are missed. Many young people participate in rallies, online campaigns, or discussions without coordination or understanding of their long-term impact. This creates confusion, miscommunication, and sometimes even conflict among supporters. Opponents exploit this disorganization to weaken the movement, misrepresent its goals, and portray youth activism as chaotic or meaningless. Without a clear path, enthusiasm can fade and the mission loses momentum, leaving the responsibility solely on individuals who may not know how to contribute effectively. The solution lies in creating a roadmap where every youth knows their role and the steps required to make a tangible impact. A roadmap transforms raw passion into strategic action, ensuring that each effort contributes to the larger goal. It involves defining specific tasks, timelines, and responsibilities while also maintaining flexibility to adapt to changing circumstances. Youth must be educated on legal and peaceful methods of activism, understand the importance of disciplined communication, and work in a coordinated manner to amplify their collective voice. A roadmap also ensures accountability, making sure that individuals remain committed to their roles while supporting others. By giving every participant clarity on what they can do, the roadmap transforms disorganized energy into a powerful, cohesive force that cannot be ignored or suppressed. An example of the effectiveness of a roadmap can be seen in the civil rights movement in the United States. Leaders like Martin Luther King Jr. did not rely solely on spontaneous protests or speeches. They created organized plans, assigned responsibilities, and coordinated efforts across cities and states. This structure allowed thousands of young activists to act in unison, spreading awareness, applying pressure on authorities, and maintaining focus despite repeated challenges. Similarly, during Pakistan's independence movement, student organizations and youth groups operated with clear plans that defined their outreach, messaging, and protests. Their roadmap ensured that every action, whether distributing pamphlets, organizing rallies, or negotiating with leaders, contributed to the larger vision of an independent nation. Even recent movements, such as climate activism led by youth worldwide, demonstrate that a clearly defined roadmap with coordinated steps allows millions to act effectively, creating influence far beyond what any single individual could achieve. For the mission of Imran Khan's release, the roadmap must include multiple layers of action. First, there should be educational initiatives, such as seminars, workshops, and digital campaigns that inform youth and the public about the legal, social, and moral dimensions of the struggle. Second, there should be organized networks of volunteers in every city and university, each assigned specific responsibilities like community engagement, media management, or peaceful advocacy campaigns. Third, there should be contingency plans to respond to obstacles such as media censorship, legal roadblocks, or misinformation campaigns. Finally, the roadmap should integrate feedback mechanisms, allowing young activists to learn from successes and failures, continuously improving the effectiveness of their efforts. By following such a structured approach, youth ensure that their energy is maximized, their voice remains credible, and the movement remains resilient against attempts to suppress it. The roadmap also creates a sense of ownership and responsibility among young people. When each person knows their role, they feel empowered to act and accountable for contributing to the collective mission. This eliminates confusion, builds confidence, and ensures that momentum is sustained even when individual setbacks occur. Young people can use digital platforms, local community gatherings, and coordinated campaigns to implement the roadmap, creating a system where every action reinforces the larger goal. This clarity not only strengthens the movement internally, but also demonstrates to the world that the youth are organized, disciplined, and committed to justice, making it impossible for authorities to dismiss or undermine their efforts. To quickly summarize, we explored why Imran Khan's release is crucial for Pakistan's future, the incredible power and responsibility of youth, the importance of raising awareness through peaceful and impactful methods, building discipline, unity, and resilience, learning from setbacks to stay strong, and creating a clear roadmap where every young person knows their role. Each point shows that real change doesn't come from waiting. It comes from action, strategy, and unwavering belief in justice. If this message inspired you, make sure to hit that subscribe button, like the video, and drop a comment sharing how you plan to contribute to this mission. Your voice matters, and together we can turn awareness into action. And stay tuned, because in the next video, we'll dive deeper into step-by-step strategies for youth activism, how to organize, mobilize, and make an impact that can't be ignored